Today in pre-cal we learned about quadratics by factoring and the quadratic formula. If you need more help on factoring, you need to be sure to come in before or after school because I'm not going to put much emphasis on that in class today. I'm assuming that you learned that in Algebra 2 like you should have, and if you do need more help, please come after school. Part A for today is factoring. When I teach it, I'm going to emphasize using the My Father Drives a Red Mustang method, so if you're not familiar with that, I'd be happy to show you how to do it. Example 1, x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. Now, if you can factor by inspection or by the guess and check method and you're good at it and you can make it happen every single time, great. If you can't, you need to go with My Father Drives a Red Mustang. For this one, my father, so first is multiply a times c. A is 1, c is negative 8, which is negative 8. So find the things that multiply to get negative 8 and add to get negative 2. That would be 2 times 4, where the 4 is negative. Those two add to get negative 2 and multiply to get negative 8. So we multiplied, we found the factors. Now we need to divide by a. Our a again was 1. Reduce, there is no reducing. Make the multiples, so that has x and x goes here. And we read from the bottom up. And so our factors are x plus 2 times x minus 4 equals 0. Now we want to solve each of those to get our solution. So x plus 2 equals 0 and x minus 4 equals 0. If I subtract 2 from each side, I get x equals negative 2 and x equals 4. So my solutions are negative 2, 0 and 4, 0. Remember from yesterday that solutions are the same as x-intercepts, so you need to be sure you have 0 in the y place always for it to be an intercept. Let's look at another one. Example number 2. 3 plus 5x minus 2x squared equals 0. You'll notice that this one is not written in standard form, so we need to write it that way so that we have negative 2x squared plus 5x plus 3, so that it's easier to factor and so it's easier to tell where our a, b, and c are. There's a, b, and c. Okay, for a times c, negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. That's what I want to multiply to get. I want to add to get 5. 1 times 6, if I make one of those negative, it will give me 5, and that would be the 1, because 6 minus 1 is 5. So those are my factors. Divide by a, which is negative 2. Reduce, this one would be 1/2. This one would be negative 3 over 1. And make your factors. So the first one is 2x plus 1. And the second one is x minus 3 equals 0. Okay, to solve those, we're going to do 2x plus 1 equals 0. X minus 3 equals 0. And if I solve those, my answers are x equals negative 1/2, 0, and x equals 3, 0. Okay, let's look at one more like that. Example number 3. 4x squared plus 21x plus 20 equals 0. And I know that these are getting increasingly harder to factor if you are using guess and check, which is why I really think you should try My Father Drives a Red Mustang. It's a foolproof method to get the answer correct every single time. Let's go through those steps again. Multiply a times c. 4 times 20 is 80. That's the number we'll try to multiply to get. 21 is our b. That's what we'll try and add to get. Let's list our multiples of 80. 1 and 80, 2 and 40, 4 and 20, 5 and 16. 5 plus 16 is 21, so that's the pair we want to use. The rest of these we can cross out. Next, we're going to divide both by a, which is 4. We're going to reduce. There's no reducing on the first one. On the second one, we can reduce it to 4 over 1. Make factors by putting your x's on the bottom and reading up. So my factors are 4x plus 5, from here, 4x plus 5, and 1x plus 4 equals 0. On this section on your test dealing with factoring and the part dealing with the quadratic formula, you're going to be asked to do all of these things without a calculator. So if you're calculator dependent or all you know how to do is on the calculator, you will need to brush up on some of these skills so that you can do it without a calculator, since that will not be available to you on this next test. One answer is negative 5/40 and the other one is negative 40. Again, in all of these cases we found 2 solutions. It's possible to only find one or to find none. That kind of goes back to what we talked about yesterday. The second part of what we need to learn for today is how to do the quadratic formula. Many of you probably learned this song when you took Algebra 1. And the song goes like this. x equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And there's lots of other versions on YouTube that you can look at, and I realize that I'm not the best singer, so that's why I did not sing this for you in class, but it will help you remember this if you sing it to Pop Goes the Weasel, and it'll make it a lot faster when you're doing your homework. Let's look at another example, number 4. F of x equals x squared minus 10x plus 22. Let's plug it into our formula. X equals negative b, negative negative 10, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Also, in class today when we did this, we did label out to the side what a, b, and c are. That might help you. A is 1, b is negative 10, and c is 22. Again, remember that we get those because a is always in front of x squared, b is always in front of x, and c is always the number on the end by itself. Obviously, it has to be in standard form for you to be able to do that. Now, if we start to simplify, negative negative 10 makes positive 10, plus or minus the square root. Negative 10 squared is 100, minus 4 times 1 is 4, times 22 is 88, all over 2. Then I have 10 plus or minus the square root of 12, because 100 minus 88 is 12. I can reduce my square root, so I have 10 plus or minus 12 is 4 times 3. The square root of 4 is 2, so I can take that on the outside and leave 3 on the inside. That goes back to when you learned how to reduce radicals. So that would be, because 4 times 3 is 12, square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of 3 stays inside. And then finally, these two have a common denominator of 2, so I can reduce them to 5 plus or minus the square root of 3. And my two solutions would be 5 plus the square root of 3, comma 0, and 5 minus the square root of 3, comma 0. And that would be my two solutions for that problem. It's okay that they were left like this. In fact, I would want them to be left that way. If you got a decimal, I would know that you were using your calculator, which is what I asked you not to do. So be sure that you do that by simplifying. Let's do one more problem. We're going to do 4x squared plus 2x plus 4 equals 2x plus 8. Okay? To be able to do that, we want to move everything to the same side. If they're on two sides, we can't do it. So we're going to move this over by doing minus 2x minus 8. On this side, they cancel. I have 0. On this side, those two cancel, and I have 4x squared plus 4. Now I can plug it in my quadratic formula. A is 4, B is 0, and C is 4. And C should be negative. Excuse me, negative 4. Okay, let's work that through. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, negative 0 just means 0. 0 squared is 0. So far I have plus or minus the square root of 4 times 4 times negative 4 times 4 times negative 4, excuse me, which all of that makes 64. Over 2 times 4, which is 8. We know that the square root of 64 is 8, so I have plus or minus 8 over 8, which is plus or minus 1. If I write my two answers, I have negative 1, 0, and 1, 0. And that was it for today's lesson. Careful here on the homework. Be sure you write this all down. A3 is page 134. It's numbers 14, 16, 17, 22, 24, 26, and 28. The specific instructions here are on 14, you're going to do it by factoring. On 16, do it by factoring. And on 28, do it by factoring. On the rest, I want you to solve them using the quadratic formula. So there are 4 to solve using the quadratic formula. There are 3 to solve using factoring. These are very similar to the ones that you did. In fact, some of them are the same you did last night. Doing it a different way. Do not follow the instructions in the book. Do exactly what we did in the notes. For the 3 that are factoring, use factoring. For the 4 that are quadratic formula, use that. Do the best you can. The answers will not be the same as in the back of the book, so please do not try to find those there. Good luck, and let me know if you have questions.